Hello and welcome to another episode of the Three Man Weave College Basketball Podcast. One day early. It's Wednesday. The boys are here, though, to talk basketball. Pre-Thanksgiving, pre-turkey ball. We'll call it. Hello, Matthew. Hello, Jim. How are you? I am in St. Louis. You can see by the different background, by my slightly different sounding mic. Matthew, you look good, though, in your spinny hat. I'm glad you wore that. You look very nice.
Yes, festive for feast week, Mr. McKeon. Good to see you back in the motherland of all motherlands, St. Louis. Jim, good to see you as well. Yeah, let's talk hoop. A lot of it, a lot of good hoop. I have a very fun theme today. We'll discuss the emergence of villains in our college basketball game. Dan Hurley,
Ooh.
Hunter Dickinson, among other undercard villains. Yeah, it's fun. I think in this era of sixth, seventh, eighth year eligibility, there's a fatigue factor with both coaches and players. Yeah, Jim, how are you?
I'm good. I have fully embraced We Sleep in May, so I'm a little tired. I've been
Yeah, me
staying up
too.
for every late night Maui game. We're obviously up early here to record, but hey, that's what it's for. That's what Feast Week is for. We will sleep later. A lot of great ball to discuss, Kai, so we can just get right into that.
Excellent. Good stuff, fellas. And I just kind of cropped you guys again for the video, but hey, who
You're good.
knows?
Hey, while you're
Who
stalling,
knows?
or I'll stall for
No,
you
no,
real
I'm good.
quick. Why has ESPN deprioritized the Maui? Like the ESPNU shuffle
Have
back
they?
to back to ESPN2. I feel like the crews working the games.
Hmm.
Like I love Corey Alexander, but uh, man, high leverage spot there for Corey. I love the Hawaii guy though. He's awesome.
Well,
I
they
Canole,
know,
he is fantastic.
phenomenal.
they
He's
Fantastic.
great.
lost they lost Bill, unfortunately, so they're trying to pick up the scraps. He's a tough guy to replace, as we
Big
know.
shoes to fill, literally and
Yeah, no
figuratively.
big way Billy is tough.
Yes, I like the tributes though to him. It's very nice, very touching. Yes, the Maui's been
Yes.
nuts. We'll talk about it. We'll get through our three-man thoughts. Our we saw that, of course, our news and notes and Roots Roundup, and a little bit of previews for the upcoming weekend. But first, 3MW_CBB. That's where you can find us on Twitter, on Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going live right now. Every single week we do a live podcast. Every single week we do a live Best Bet show on Saturdays. You can subscribe to our channel, like the videos, helps us out a little bit. We'd appreciate it. And then, of course, subscribe to our Discord channel, our Discord with Trilly Donovan. We're talking betting every day. We're talking college hoops every day. It's a fantastic community with not just us in it, also other people that do fantastic stuff in the college basketball space, and also just diehard college basketball fans who want to talk ball. So you can get the link to that in our description to our video. It takes you to our preview website, but also has a link to the Discord itself. Join that. It's fun. Fellas, anything else before we get into the show?
Got nothing. Let's do it.
Here we go. Roots Roundup. Jim, round it up.
Of course, Kai, we're talking news and notes in the world of college basketball. But before we do, a quick shout out to CBB Analytics, a wonderful sponsor, great data website. Matthias, you are our expert there. We know they're adding some new features. Let's give the people a promo code at the very least.
Yeah, CBB Analytics, that's WEEAVE, Weave, $40 off your subscription. Check it out. They're awesome.
Yeah, shot charts, on-off lineup data as we get into the early season. You want to overreact to what you're seeing out there. We love to have that. Great high-level view of the sport. All kinds of nuggets. If you want to look at your team, or if you're a coach, you want to preview who you're playing next. CBB Analytics is a great spot for you. Promo code WEAVE, $40 off subscription.
Fun
That's
little tool
basically
they
a
added
month
as well,
off.
Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, month off, and I guess effectively, sorry, I was multitasking here. That's why I abandoned the ad right here. They have a new clutch shot chart tracking thing. So actually, you can look at who's taken and made the most go ahead field goals in the last minutes of games in high leverage spots. So it's good for like just fun, like for fans to look and see like who's taking and making big, time shots, but also for coaches, like who's most likely to take those types of shots in late game spots where it's going to go to. So again, Nick's got a ton of new features going to be rolling out soon. I'll try and skew them off to you once we get deeper into the year. So yeah, fun stuff. Good tool. It's a crutch for me now. So get on it, folks.
Very much so. Nothing major in terms of news storylines. We don't have anything earth-shattering in the sport. We like to see that. That's not nothing to react to. So in the recruiting world, real quick, five-star power forward Chris Cenac headed to Houston. This recruiting class for the Cougars is absolutely loaded. I believe 3 top 20 players, including the best point guard in the country. This is the best power forward / center in the country. Calvin Sampson has had a couple bummers on the court recently. We'll discuss Houston briefly, and we've saw that, but they are going to stay loaded considering the talent that they have rolling in there. And we know he likes to use the portal just to fill in, pick one guy out, an LJ Cryer or a Milos Uzan. He'll find his pieces to go alongside this loaded recruiting class. Four-star shooting guard Jerry Easter is headed to USC, top 50 recruit there. And a quick shout out to Stephen F. Austin getting mentioned here. Four-star small forward Trayvon Maddox headed to the Lumberjacks. Not often that we see a mid-major appear in this realm of the sport. Yeah, Axum Jacks, Matthew.
Great for Keller. He's one of my favorites. I feel like it's a bummer that I haven't tracked them as closely this season because they're on the extra board now in the Southland, and from my betting, I just don't spend as much time on those teams, Kai. But it's one of my favorite mid-major programs. But they are properly associated now in the South. That's where they belong. Them and UTRGV.
They've done very good this year. They need to kind of pick it up a little bit.
They're hurt,
SFA,
I think.
yeah.
They don't have a point guard. Get a point guard, Kyle.
Yeah, that would
What's our
certainly
problems?
be beneficial. He recruited a small forward, not a point guard, but that's what the portal's for. Transfers, we should mention Jalen Worley made his decision. He is headed to Gonzaga. He left Virginia after the Tony Bennett news, going to sit out this year and join the team next year. Obviously, a very deep backcourt there for Gonzaga, even with the Steel Venters injury. Probably makes sense. Let him sit out, develop, I believe, as a connection to the staff out there in Spokane. Going to be a great ad. If he gets there and redshirts, we remember how great guys that redshirted were under Mark Few. You think back to Kyle Wiltjer becoming an All-American is the one that always stands out to me. Micah Downs was a big name. So this could be very beneficial for the Zags. I trust in Mark Few and his player development out there. Some bummers of injuries, fellas, here, especially this first one. Marcus Burton of Notre Dame, late last night against Rutgers in the Players' Air tournament, fell on a layup attempt. I believe Emmanuel Abole for Rutgers kind of landed on his knee awkwardly. And we don't know the extent of the injury, but Burton did not return. He was sitting on the side in street clothes with his leg propped up. Kai, I'm not sure they could have done any sort of test quite then. We don't know if it's going to be ligament, if it's a sprain, whatever. But we're worried, I would say. There's a potential this could be a season ender, and we're very, very concerned.
Yeah, unfortunate either way. Notre Dame's best player. We love Shrewsbury. We love the Irish this season. Yeah, unfortunate. What can you say? Injuries, they do happen, but we really don't like them to happen, period. And also to really great players like Burton.
Yes. Rooting for the best there. Again, there's no official diagnosis as we record this on Wednesday morning, so we are hoping that it'll come out. Maybe it's like a knee sprain back in 3 weeks kind of thing. That's crossing our fingers. Also in the ACC, Damian Dunn for Pitt got hurt early in the Greenbrier tournament final against Wisconsin. He's going to be out, I think, 6 weeks after wrist surgery. Pitt, not an overly deep team, particularly on the perimeter, so getting him back would be rather important. Jalen Lowe, Ish Leggett, fantastic guards, but having Dunn as the third complementary scorer, really, really helpful for them. So Dunn, get back healthy. This is proof that guys don't only get hurt at Houston. Even when they leave Houston, they can still get hurt. Kai, there's the conspiracy theory that Houston practices are why people get hurt.
Yeah.
No, that's dumb.
This was interesting, Jim. I saw this play, and the initial diagnosis was dislocated thumb and sprained ankle. It was like a double.
Oh, yeah, I forgot he hurt his ankle, too. That did happen.
It was like a double. I'm not even sure how it happened still. Like, even watching the play, it doesn't even look like anything happened on it, but yikes. Yeah, bad news for Dunn.
Yeah, not good at all. And yeah, I believe you're right, Kai. It was thumb, not wrist. I misspoke and said wrist. As somebody who's had thumb surgery, yeah, the UCL in my thumb, basically. They call it the ACL of your hand. Not fun. So hope he gets back quickly. Kai, I think you want to hit people with the Reddit stat of the day, and then we can move on to We've Saw That.
Yeah, even though two of us went to Mizzou, we can still do a Reddit stat of the day about Kansas. From KCDB username, Bill Self at Kansas is now 18-7, 18-7 against UNC, Kentucky, and Duke. Pretty good, not bad, fellas.
Yeah, that's really good. I believe that is a 72% win percentage against three of the most storied programs in the entire country, all of whom have had Hall of Fame coaches during his tenure with Calipari, Coach K, Roy Williams. Bill Self's really good. He's just awesome. He's just a great coach.
Yeah, if as a Duke fan watching that game last night, I felt like the upper hand with the clipboard was with the Kansas side, not with the Duke side.
Oh, you
Yeah,
think?
yeah, and you could feel that throughout the game. Like the first 5 minutes, like, oh, this game plan's way better for Kansas. Just whatever. We'll talk about that when we get to yeah, but yeah, he's good. Nice ball coach.
Yeah,
Kai, that
unfortunately.
is it for Roots Roundup. That's all we got.
Sounds good. We're going into. We saw that. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see that game driving home to St. Louis for the Thanksgiving holidays. But yeah, it looked like a great game. First of all, for the Maui's been awesome. I have been fortunate to watch a couple of these games, and we've gotten some real barn burners or barn barners, as Charles Barkley likes to say. UConn Memphis. First of all, the OT thriller. I have a thought on Dan Hurley later. I'm not. You probably won't be surprised to hear what that's about. Iowa State Auburn was an incredible game. As an Iowa State backer, to see them lose a near 20-point lead was shocking, but they did hang in there for the cover, if not the win. UNC Dayton was a great game. Jim, the night owl, stayed up for this one. Jim, what do you think about UNC Dayton? How do you think about the Flyers? You were a little bit lower on them, I would say, going into the season.
Yeah, I have raised Dayton. I've been really, really impressed with both of their performances. I know they're 0-2, but you have to be kind of a blockhead to not take positives away from that for the Flyers. The UNC game in particular was so impressive. The shot making on both sides. Every time UNC would cut it to 5, then Dayton would hit a 3 to extend it back to 8. And then UNC cuts it to 2. Dayton responds with an and 1 to extend it back to 5. And I know UNC did eventually climb the mountain and summit the peak there, take the lead and get the win. But Dayton's resilience down the stretch was really impressed with their young players. Latang, Musa made some nice plays, and Malachi Smith looks fully back. And we just talked about how much we hate
Yeah.
injuries.
Yep.
It's really good to see a guy of that caliber who's struggled with injuries in his career look like the player that he was before it, Matt. That's been my biggest swing factor for Dayton, was I wasn't sure where he'd be, what level he'd be at. But with everybody else, like I kind of know what Santos is. I know what Key, Alexander, Bennett are. Smith looks like a stud again, and that really, really elevates the Flyers.
Yeah, the A10 discussion is going to get better and better as the year goes on, and it's almost a shame that right now we can't, in earnest, put SLU in that group just because they just haven't been as dominant or had those marquee moments that the other. But yeah, Dayton's all the way back. It just brings back all the great memories from when Jim was there, and I love that they've gotten Zed Key and Posh Alexander to fully accept the roles that they have, which is basically 20 minutes a game, guys. Like they bring in Key as sort of the first punch, rim runner, post up guy, and they bring in the Frenchman Latang, and he's like the stretchy guy, and it just works well. And then Posh is not the guy. He sort of gets in there and f stuff up, and does his chaotic defensive stuff, but then they don't like leave him in too long. Once he starts taking like pull up jumpers and dump threes, like okay, that's enough, Posh. We'll bring in Bennett and Malachi, and they'll actually have a more off. So it's a great recipe that Dayton's got. I think we all slept on it because of how important Duron Holmes was last year, but they've really retooled it. And I mean, that's been UConn, yes, but Dayton, I'm just excited that the A10 looks like very real, like definitely two at-large potential teams there.
That's my worry, though, Matt, is that both Dayton and
They
VCU
both
didn't
lost.
quite get their wins.
That's right.
Like they looked good, but didn't
They
get the
look like
wins.
the at-large teams. They didn't actually get to the across the finish
exactly.
line.
Yeah, how about Malachi Smith starting lineup and Posh taking the back seat off the bench role? Very nice to see from Posh, as Matt kind of alluded to. But yes, UConn. Not only did they lose to Memphis, but they also lost to Colorado, a team that looked not that good against Michigan State. And
Kai, I'm going to say they looked horrible against Michigan State.
yes, okay, bad against
Bad.
Michigan State. I don't think Colorado's a bad team for the record, but to beat UConn, I don't know if that says more about Colorado's pluckiness and the Tad Boyle, does more with less expectations thing, or if UConn has an issue. And I did watch some of this game. I mean, I think UConn's just fine personally. I again have a longer Hurley thought, but clearly they're not invincible this season as they have been the past 2 years.
Man, I don't think they're fine. I think the interior defense is like a real concern, and their numbers are really inflated right now because they played 4 complete patsies before they got to Maui. But their defense has given up way over 1 point per possession, 2 games in a row. They're fouling a ton. They give up a ton of free throws. And of course, every pod's kind of doing it. But Matt, we have to have a little Aiden Mahaney discussion. Memphis just picked on him play after play after play, and then he only got 7 minutes against Colorado. Like, is he just completely washing out of the rotation already? Is he going to be in the portal by December? I don't think quite that extreme, but they have a lot to figure out. There's a chance Amon Noel's the better backup point guard than Mahaney.
Yep. No, everyone's already clamoring for Noel. I know he's like way better defensively, so at least you have that as like something to fall back on because that was always Mahaney's. It was a weakness that wasn't really exposed at St. Mary's because of all this, strong system defense around him. And now they're asking him to run point, which he didn't really run point guard at St. Mary's, right? That was Gus. That wasn't your Goose, excuse me.
Yep.
It wasn't Mahaney's thing. So I liked it. John Fanta very succinctly said point guard center. Not that there's a true center really in today's game, but at the 1 and the 5, the UConn has question marks because Samson Johnson hasn't really been himself either. So that's tough. That's kind of where they're at right now. I mean, it's almost like they lost 4 generational talent pieces, and it was always sort of a struggle.
Hey, they did 2 years ago too, and we all thought they would fall down, but yeah, it's third time's a charm in calling UConn's fall from grace a little bit, just a little bit.
Yep. Yep. And Kai, like you said, we can holster the Dan discussion.
Yes, because we need to talk about Dan Hurley a little bit. The Players era has delivered so far. The tournament that pays you for winning the tournament. Alabama over Houston in overtime, and Houston, Jim kind of mentioned earlier. Bummer, man, that they've kind of, I'd say, had 2 wins well within their wheelhouse, and they've kind of let it slip. But I still think a great team, no doubt. Oregon came back and beat Texas A&M from an early deficit. That was an ugly game. I did not watch that one, but I heard the complaints about how affronting it was to the eyes. And then San Diego State just crushed Creighton. Small Creighton discussion later on in the thoughts. But takeaways from the Players era, day 1, Jim.
Yeah, the Houston-Alabama game was really good. Houston kind of had it won. They were way up there in win probability, and they just kind of leaked water a little bit late in the game, and Alabama took advantage of it, hit big shots, got the big Sears 3 in OT, and Houston ran out of gas offensively. Uzan fouled out in 12 minutes. That was a major problem because they didn't have as much of a facilitator. LJ Cryer had to take 26 shots, and as good as he was, it was a little inefficient. He was having to set the table a little bit. Houston only had 8 assists in the entire game, 8 assists on 26 baskets. So, 24. That was a problem. They just didn't have the table setter without Uzan. Bama had a little bit more to them, a little more juice, Matthew down the stretch. But I just think both those teams are really good. I'm not throwing Houston down a well because they have lost 2 neutral site games to top 10 teams.
Yeah, I want to see what they look like when their front court's fully healthy. And I don't know if that's going to be the case for like another month or 2. So we'll like when the Arsenault and both the J bigs are fully healthy, which I know Samson has said they've been like laboring through stuff for a while. So I'm with you there. I think on the other end of the coin, I mean, the Oregon Texas A&M game, this is the other, what the pod names are something stupid. What are they called?
Power and Impact, both of which are dumb.
Yeah. So the A&M Oregon game, like 2 teams I liked, I did not enjoy watching that game. That was my takeaway with that one. And even though Oregon is 6-0 and A&M is now, I guess they're 4-2 with that loss. Like I'm like kind of bummed about both those teams. I feel lower about them than when I came into the year, even though they have pretty good resumes. I mean, A&M at least beat Ohio State. So, and Oregon obviously has not lost yet.
Yeah, Oregon's not as good as I expected early on. I think they still have a chance to get there. Kansas Duke, again, was in the car. We talked about this a little bit. How was Shire versus Bill Self, Matt, in your own words?
Didn't go great. We can talk about a myriad of adjustments that I think Shire didn't make in that game.
Including, but not limited to?
Self really tried to pick on the Duke role players. Like I think he tried to pick on Gillis and Knipple actually early on, just early in the game by blitzing Cooper so hard, like making others beat him. And Gillis just wasn't really that confident. And Knipple, while he really kind of found his groove late as a playmaker, his shot was a little bit yippy to start.
His shot was a little bit yippy at the end. He went 0 for 8 from 3.
All I heard
after the Kentucky game was he'll never go 1 for 8 again, and then he went 0 for 8. So I guess you were technically right.
With both those guys, you can see like there's a little bit of uncertainty. It's almost like with Kansas. Ironically, with Kansas role players last year, it's like Timberlake. Like they were so the difference, the gap between them and the studs was so big that I feel like you can see a lack of confidence. Like it's like, oh crap, here's my chance. I have to make this shot. And it's like, no, relax. Like Knipple just needs to relax. He'll be fine.
He's not a role player. He's like their
Exactly. That's
biggest.
why
He gets the
he'll get
ball
enough
way more. Like
touches.
Tyrese Proctor was infinitely better, and they did not give Proctor
Yeah.
any touches late. I did not understand what the approach was there.
And in the late game stuff, I agree. That was bad again. Like I thought and then that was tough. I thought Shire really missed the mark in like the last 2 minutes, didn't execute properly. And I mean, to not win that game without Dickinson for 10 minutes while KU had like 1.5 real competent offensive players on the floor. Like Adams is looking to pass, Harris is looking to pass, and it's just trying to find somebody to make a shot. And like Duke can't capitalize on that. Like that's tough.
Yeah, Duke had 7 points in the final 8 minutes. What are you doing? And maybe that's a testament to Kansas defense without Dickinson on the floor, and Badunga is much more active and more of a shot blocker. But yeah, I was like, okay, we're seeing the exact same foibles from Duke again. They don't know how to make a play down the stretch. And I'm sure everybody's like, oh, they're young. They're going to be just fine towards the end of the year. I think that was the case that Field 68 After Dark is making. I don't know. If they don't figure out who the guy is, it's just going to be kind of a rotating cast of characters. And I don't love the play calls out of Shire either.
Yeah, I do think they'll be fine by the end of the year, but the late game foibles, I think that does point to youth and coaching decisions. And Shire has so far not really passed that test against, albeit really good teams. They're not playing. Nobody's making these decisions, but still, it is concerning if you're going to be the top of the food chain.
It's tough that Cooper Flag has had 2 semi-marquee moments like late in the game where he turns it over on that kind of middle late like
spin.
drive. Yeah,
Yep,
spin
spin.
thing. It's just like crap. Now you have 2 mental things that are just going to be in your brain the rest of the year because he'll have the ball for sure in late game spots. You know, he's not going to like, we'll put Cooper in the corner. It's like, no, we're going to play through Cooper probably still. So I hate that he has to like overcome that with like a big moment or something to get that off his mind.
Matt, who's Duke's best 5-man lineup?
I don't know. It better not be Knipple and Gillis cannot be on the floor together at all. I mean, Gillis needs to not play. He's just not. He's not ready.
Wow.
This is not. Yeah,
not
he's
ready.
Not enough.
Wow.
I'm not
He's
sure I'm
not
on
good
board
enough.
with that take.
I think it's Flag, Knipple, Proctor, Scion, and
Is it Brown or Malawatch?
I think it's Malawatch. I think I'm in there. Either one is fine with me, but I think those 4 need to be in the other crunch time before you got to go to war with.
All right.
Reasonable takes from the Duke fan.
Sorry, Foster. I'm just
No,
I like that mix.
No apologies needed, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far from him.
It's been up and down.
Other tournaments, congrats to the winners, real quick. The Missouri Valley has looked very good, which a little bit surprising. Not these 2 teams particularly, but the Valley on the whole, a little bit down from last season. But Bradley won the Myrtle Beach Invitational. Drake won the Charleston Classic. Maybe we just pause real quick on Drake, guys, because they have looked incredible. Ben McCollum hasn't really missed a beat since dominating the D2 ranks. He's got a lot of his players back from Northwest Missouri State, and they might even be better than last season, which is kind of crazy. I won't go that far quite yet, but this team is awesome. They grind their opponents down into dust on both ends. Just one of the best coach teams I've seen early on this season.
Yeah, it was kind of a fun draw for them where they get 3 teams that just want to run. Like FAU, Vandy really want to get up and down. Miami just wants to play offense. They have no interest in defending at all. And Drake was happy to half court execute them to death. I mean, just the decision making, the cutting, the sets that they run. They ran like 3 different variations of Spain pick and roll against Miami and got dunks, alley-oop dunks out. Like they had 4 or 5 alley-oop dunks in the first half against Miami. And then Vandy, FAU, they just kind of grinded them. And Matt, you can see the connectivity between the guys that are familiar with McCollum. Manyau's fit in pretty well as the big guy. It's just a super impressive team that I will say is probably a lot closer to a finished product than a ton of other transfer portal freshman-laden teams, and they took advantage of it. Credit to them.
Yeah, I mean, the continuity is very evident with the guys he brought, but Cam's awesome up front. Like, that's the guy we saw at Wyoming that were like, yes, talent's there. There's a future there. And then sure enough, a year later, under a good coach, as sort of the hub of a system, it's like, wow, what a revelation that is. So
yeah, he punked Vandy. He
did. And Vandy, obviously, brittle front line, so good matchup. But, I mean, the Valley, you're not going to see many rink masked walk around this year. So I think he'll be pretty effective there.
Texas won the Legends Classic. Tennessee took the Baja Mar. Liberty, the Paradise Jam, beating some very good teams there. I've been impressed with the Flames. I know you guys have as well. Richie McKay, not bad. Not a bad coach. Should he go back to Virginia?
Boy,
Yeah,
he
sets up.
probably doesn't want to, but yeah.
Probably not. No. Uh,
Yeah, does he have more NIL at Liberty than they do at
God,
Virginia?
it's
Who
coming
knows?
close.
it's very possible at this point. Wisconsin won the Greenbrier, and can we put to bed the Greenbrier? Can we never do this tournament again? Because the technical difficulties, the shot clock stopped working for Pitt, Wisconsin at the start of the game. And the PA announcer had to call out 15, 10, and then he count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I swear every time he called out 15 or 10, it was right in the middle of a guy shooting the ball. And it wasn't just a little bit like, I'm going to softly introduce this. It was a jarring announcement from the PA guy. And the stream had, the TV had difficulties, the filming of it. It was horrible. And it was in kind of a hotel ballroom as well. Not with the same charm, though, Jim, as Bahamas.
Yeah, the only thing charming was the governor of West Virginia sitting there with
The
his
bulldog,
bulldog
yes.
on
Very
an
nice.
armchair. That was
Great.
delightful. But Kai, even just going back to their trial run with mid majors a week ago with UT Rio Grande Valley and Tennessee Tech and VMI, the lights went off on part of the court for part of the game, and they just had to play through it. They're like, all right, well, we can't get them back on immediately, so we're just going to play with a dark side of the court. Yeah, it was a choppy start to Greenbrier. I'm not gonna like completely write it off if they want to keep going, but this was more about Wisconsin. I want to heap some praise on the Badgers, Matthew, because John Tonje is a total beast. Blackwell has given him that complimentary score. Crowell's the anchor in the paint, and they've got a bunch of other guys, Chernicki, McGee, even Gilmore has some big defensive plays that are filling the roles correctly. And just having Tonje emerge into an alpha has allowed everybody else to be where they should be in a rotation. And the Badgers seem like they're going to be right in the mix in the Big Ten with this performance.
Yeah, I mean, Blackwell's been great too. Like, I think he's been what we thought he'd be going into his sophomore season. So you had two dynamic wing guards, and everything else just makes sense. Like, you don't need Klusman to do too much. You know, Krell's great, but you don't need him to do everything, right? You don't have to put the Ethan Happ type of burden on him. He can just be like a counterpunch, but a really good counterpunch, like an all-conference counterpunch. I'm not totally in on Wisconsin yet. I'm in-ish on Wisconsin. I'm coming around, Kai. It always takes me.
All right.
Me and Wisconsin never really, it takes us a little while to warm up to them every season. I've been right though the last couple of years, so I'm trying to stick to my
Have you?
guns on it. Yeah, they weren't
I
that
think
good.
they've exceeded your expectations, certainly last year.
They weren't that good last year.
Top 20
Top
team,
20
got a
team.
5 seed. Relax. They were the last team to
You
beat
both
Purdue,
know they were
Matthew.
not. Yeah, I know that was the tournament. No, you both know that team was not a top 20 team last year. That team was not a top 20
At the beginning of the year, though, I think they were, for sure. They kind of hung in there. Yeah, John Tonje being an All-American, great, fantastic, Mizzou, hooray. He's been incredible. He shot 63 free throws through 7 games. That's a lot of free throws.
Yep, he knows how to throw his body around in the paint. It's very PJ Haggerty-esque,
Yes.
Matthew. To shout it back out to
Yes.
Memphis.
Boston College, Cayman Islands Classic, not exactly a strong field, but they won, so that's a positive for Boston College, the storied ACC program. And then Clemson.
Hey, they considering Boise like choked it away and should have won. I will at least, Boston College showing some competence at the bottom of the ACC is helpful for that league.
Did Boston College beat? They beat Boise. Oh, how about that? I
They did.
realized
They
beat
did.
Boise.
Yeah, tough, huge result for the Mountain
Wow.
West.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw our guy Tom Monster
That is big.
was calling, and he's right. I mean, that's just like these are the rare opportunities you can't squander. You got to win the big ones, but you definitely can't win the quad 3. This is probably quad 3. I guess it could be a quad 2. Maybe
Neutral.
if BC gets hot, but no chance BC's a quad 2 win, right? No chance.
They might be top 100. I mean,
Could
they're
be.
sitting there 6-1 right now with win over
Yeah, I
Boise, only losses to VCU. It's
Yeah, it's
it's not
surprising.
a heinous resume. Yeah.
Yeah, Earl Grant's not taking BC anywhere higher in the AC totem pole, but he is awesome at keeping them below like the cellar dweller below LD. He's just
Above the
like,
Mendoza
a
line.
cockroach. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
He's a good cockroach.
Clemson, Sunshine Slam, took down Penn State to win this one. Really fun game. Both teams are good. Penn State is a lot better than I thought they were going to be this season for sure. But Clemson is resilient. Impressed by them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'm good.
kind of came in stubborn against them, Matthew, and both these. I actually bet on them both these games. Kind of like I think they're just a little better than San Francisco and Penn State, and they showed out. The high low they have with Shefflin and Locking, the Loch Ness Monster and the Chef. It's a great little high low. Like both of them can pass, both of them can score on the block, both of them can offensive rebound. It is a like battering ram that your defense has to deal with.
They're up to 23 in KenPom, one spot above Arizona. How about that? Wow. Huh.
Hey.
We said the good wins. Well, first of all, shout out John Tanji. Yes, he was incredible against Pitt, like a superhero. Eric Dixon, Matt's definitely going to win his little, he set his points per game line at like 22 points per game. He had 38 in the loss. He's going to blow away that
They have no one else.
Yeah.
I don't know why you guys were so like flabbergasted by my take there. It's like they're like we I mean I know Luca Poplar's better, but like we made fun of that guy courtside for 2 days in a row. Like Jameer Breekis, a fun player at LaSalle, but like I mean I don't know. I thought Perkins would be better. That was sort of the guy I thought would be fringe into the I don't know the deputy scorer to Dixon, but I mean whatever. They're poorly coached.
Yes.
It's just hard to watch them play. Like you can tell like there's teams where big time programs with teams that are struggling. Your home court advantage is almost like negative because there's like an angst and like a animosity with the home fans in a product you're putting out there. It doesn't look good. It doesn't sit well.
Dixon's shooting 54% from three, 100% from the free throw line, and his team sits 3-4. Ouch. Neptune just points at him at the end of the game. That's all he does on offense. He literally just points at him, gets the ball, and the rest is history. Okay, bad losses. We got to talk real quick. Rutgers, this is why power teams don't play at the low majors, because Rutgers took the loss at Kennesaw State. These teams, rightly so, get hyped for these games. I saw the Kennesaw crowd. It was electric, and they pulled the upset. They took down Rutgers. It's a young team, Kennesaw, but solid this season so far. Their results have been good. Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, Rutgers with two freshmen. This was the Ace Bailey homecoming game. That's what they were doing it for. It's why they played the road game down in Georgia. But it's just surprising that, like, okay, your first road game, manic mid-major environment where there's like no upside to winning. Right. It's a basically lose-lose thing. So credit to Pikel for doing it, but this is every P5 coach is gonna be like, this is why we don't do it, because look what happens.
Notre Dame lost at home to Elon. Elon, another team that's looked really good in the early going, surprisingly. Notre Dame, unfortunately, especially with the Burton news, doesn't look good for postseason hopes for them, but hey, it's early. Colorado State lost to UC Riverside, Matt's favorite team in the country.
Let's go.
Yes, good
Matt
job.
Guys.
Colorado State, Mountain West, iffy on them a little bit. And then, let's skip to Miami real quick. Miami just is a horrible team. 0-3 in the Charleston. I mean, they look horrible. Like, this was not the team I was expecting. The shiny transfers coming in, it doesn't matter. It might be time for Jamie Larranaga to hang it up, fellas.
I mean, they were just fully disinterested. Like, they did not care about playing defense. If you take out preseason influence from Bart Torvik's filters, they're 349th in defense, and it's not three-point shooting. Like, the teams are making a completely fair average number, 33% of their threes, and they're just getting gashed. They don't force any turnovers. They don't rebound at all. And I guess the rebound numbers are better than I expected, but man, it's bad. Like they don't move their feet. They don't really get back in transition. It's looking kind of bleak for the Hurricanes right now.
It feels like the guys that Miami's had the last 2 years. I know there's some overlap, but there's not some overlap. There's some new dudes. Like they just are good players, but don't have any like the interest of winning beyond like it just doesn't. Like I can tell Larranaga is just like I can see a good basketball player, and we have a lot of money. But it just doesn't feel like there's a ton of like grit. Like I want to just like grab. I'm like, come on, go. There's just none of that. It's just a very like methodical.
Their guards are soft. Soft guards.
Laissez-faire. Yes, soft. Like all that crap. It's tough to watch.
So just a Sweet 16 this year for Miami. Then that's good to know. And then real quick, Vermont, the darling every single year of the American East, and still. Let's be honest, still probably likely this season, but they've gotten off to a really rocky start. Probably their worst start. I don't want to make claims here, Jim, but for me, it feels like the worst in the John Becker era. I have not looked back, but for them to sit 3-4 in general and have losses to Merrimack, Iona, Fairfield, of all teams, is a little bit shocking.
Yeah, the Fairfield one really kind of jumped out, and even like some, their home performances haven't been that good. And I get that there's some injuries there with Bogues, and I think other guys are banged up, but it doesn't look great. And I can't decide if we should be, uh-oh, sky's falling. This is the year they don't win the America East, or we should stick our heads in the sand and say, they're fine. It's John Becker. Stop doubting them. They'll probably score 1.4 points per possession in their first five
Yeah,
America East
exactly.
games, and we'll say, yes, that's right. This is who they are.
All right, fellas, good recap. We saw that section. We're going to head on to three-man thoughts, where we give our thoughts, our individual curated thoughts. But first, an ad from Home Field. Home Field Apparel, they make the best collegiate apparel in the entire world. Comfy shirts, comfy hoodies, comfy joggers, comfy hats. For all of the college teams that you love and hold dearly, your alma mater, they probably have them. Hundreds of schools on their website right now. The little guys, the strange schools, the banana slugs of UC Santa Cruz, the big schools like Matt's Duke Blue Devils, they're on there. Tons of gear. I own pretty much every single piece of Mizzou gear from Home Field. I'm wearing their joggers right now. I cannot recommend them enough. They've been a great sponsor for our show for years. We are a big advocate for them. So if you want to get in on this gear, get on this cool look, homefieldapparel.com is where you can go. You can shop whatever you want, and you can use our promo code 3MW at checkout to get 15% off your first order. And they also, I think, are running a Black Friday special right now. And apologies for me not including this in the deal, but 30% off on Black Friday sale as well. So check that out. Outside of that, our promo code does apply, but make sure you get the best deal with Black Friday coming up. Christmas is around the corner. Holidays around the corner. Homefieldapparel.com. Get your comfy stuff. Boom.
Boom. Great gift. People love them. I've given home field gifts plenty in the past, and people love them.
The best gifts to give, Jim, I would say. Okay, fellas, I'm going to start us off because I think I have the most thoughts of us, and we're going to knock out a couple of these pretty quick, but let's just get right into it because we've teased it a couple times. Let's talk Dan Hurley really quick. The Dan Hurley shtick is what I'll call this. It's back in full force this year. He kind of, I think 2 years ago in the first title run, he said he was going to dial it back a bit, be more zen, not complain to the refs as much. But he really hasn't learned a thing since winning these two titles despite them. His behavior towards the refs was abysmal these past 2 days, and I love yelling at refs. I've gotten my fair share of technicals over the years, quite a few, as Matthew can attest to, and maybe even Jim. But it's too much from a head coach of a championship-winning program. Every call is wrong. Every time he gets upset about it. Every time, how many times did Kamani Young have to hold him back as Hurley did the tough?
Basically, they're just wrestling. They're
Right.
basically wrestling on the sideline.
As Hurley's doing the fake tough guy thing. Like, come on, man. It's a ref in a basketball game. And it cost him the game against Memphis in overtime, and I'm glad it did. And guys, you guys know as well, as sports bettors, take it from a sports bettor. It's super easy to be cheerful and not yell at the refs and say you're not going to when everything's going good. But then when you lose, you show your true colors. And right now, Dan's not acting like a champion, I'll say, Jim.
Yeah, it just has such a boy who cried wolf thing to it, where if you go nuts about every call and you fall to the ground and you puff your chin out, your toughness, and you hold me back, Kamani, I'm going after that guy. Then there's no call where the refs can be like, maybe I did miss that one. It's like, he just yells at me every time. Matt, there's something else say nice about John Shire. He doesn't explode unless it's really bad. And there's some like juice to it. The ref kind of feels like, oh, maybe I did miss that one because I actually upset this guy. And with Hurley, it's just like, buddy, like you can't yell about every call. Every call can't be wrong. And it just gets exhausting. And Kyle Boone, shout out to him, he made the cut up on Twitter of the Dan Hurley theatrics in only the Memphis game, and then comes out in the Colorado game and has plenty more performances just going at the refs and get that like fake chin out guys. You're talking about the tough guy thing.
Ridiculous.
It's just you got to find a way to measure it, because otherwise it's not going to mean anything, and it's just going to get on people's nerves, which it already has.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't. And so Kai's right though. I give Kai credit. I was sort of like, I had accepted this new, cool, really good Dan Hurley version and forgotten that he was always just kind of the whoa, relax, Dan guy from his old, Rhode Island years. And he's always won enough along the way. And then obviously he's won a crap ton the last few years. That's sort of like no one, there's not a lot to complain about when you're up 30 in every game, right? Like there's not a lot of moments for Dan Hurley to be that upset about something, but you can't lose your team the game. Like that's the worst coaching that you can ISO Mason Gillis against Hunter Dickinson in the post. What's worse coaching malpractice than that is literally getting a technical that puts the team at the line and loses the game. I mean, you can't do that. That's just like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
now they have 2
4
losses.
free throws when it should have been 2.
I'm not saying the tournament, but like those were 2 huge losses.
Yeah,
that's massive.
It would have been worst case 1 possession game, and instead he allowed it to be a 2 possession game because he could not contain himself. And it's not like that was the first time he complained all game. So I'm sure he gotten warned, and to collapse and say what the lip readers would assume he is saying, no good, Kai.
Look, he has a point sometimes in some of these calls, but it loses its meaning when he does it on every single play.
Yep.
Yeah, they haven't faced adversity in a while, and I think it kind of shows. Okay, so ends the Dan Hurley discussion. I'll ping-pong it over to Jim.
Yeah.
Per usual, I don't know Matt's thoughts, so Jim goes first.
Yeah, this transitions into one of mine. Do we have some new favorites in specific leagues? And it starts with the Big East. Maybe UConn is not the favorite that we thought they were, basically like even money to win the Big East in betting markets. At this point, it's very clear that Marquette has looked the best of any Big East team.
Yep.
They arguably have the best player with Cam Jones at this point. And the other candidates, like St. John's has had some iffy performances. The neutral site loss to Georgia was really concerning. Xavier hasn't looked that sharp. Creighton is a whole nother discussion that we're going to have. It's not, maybe it's Marquette's Big East to lose. Would you guys say they're the favorite, or are you going to kind of stubbornly still say UConn, Matthew?
No, I think it's I have a this or that, Jim. I went through a bunch of pick 2 teams that are sort of in this conference. And one of possible premises this one, Marquette, or you could choose St. John's or UConn. I think Marquette's best team in the Big East for sure. I feel good about that.
I'll still say UConn, but it's very close, and KenPom has them right next to each other, so I think that's appropriate. Jim, the Big East in general this year has been horrible, to put it politely, outside of Marquette, of course, and St. John's.
I think you should leave. Kai was stinky. It's stinky.
It is stinky. It's the steering wheel. Don't fall off.
Yeah, one of the Discord hot takes that somebody said, I'm sorry, I don't have your name to give you full credit, but just know I'm thinking of you, that the Big East is going to get 3 bids again this year. And it was like, oh, come on, get out of here. What are you talking about? But the bottom half of the league does not look good. The top half relative to expectations does not look that good. Xavier's got a big one against Michigan after we record today. That would be huge to keep them in, locked in on at-large discussion. But they're down to 3 teams in the top 35 of KenPom. So
St. John's 4-2, right? We all know they're a tournament caliber team. 5-2.
Yep.
But their best one is going to be coming out of non-con, either at home against K-State or against Virginia, and neither of those wins
New Mexico, not K-State. They did not play K-State.
They will play K-State though. I'm saying after the end of the non-conference, that will be. Their non-con looks really weak and will probably be weak no matter what happens the rest of the way. And it's okay, now you're just relying on the Big East schedule, which how'd that go last year, right? So that's, I think St. John's, and then obviously Creighton's got major issues too without Ashworth. God, so yeah, Big East is tough, man. Johnny Fanta was getting the troops riled up today on the spaces. I appreciate that, because there's going to need to be a circling of the wagons in Big East country. There's some bleeding out of non-con opportunities.
Can you do a Fanta impression, Matt? What's your best Fanta?
No, I can't do it. I just I just want to say he raised my spirits yesterday.
I love that.
I just love the end of his rant against the guy in the Big East, where he's like,
Cincinnati.
You don't get to redeem the call.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I slept fine.
Yeah.
Nick goes after me. I love that.
Job to do.
Yeah. He's a king. He's king. Okay, other conferences. Who's the favorite in the Big Ten right now?
Oh boy, I still think Purdue's the best team personally.
Matt, I'm close to putting Indiana as the favorite, and I know the moment I say this, they're going to lose to Louisville today, and it will look dumb. But I'm close to installing them as the favorite. Purdue's depth has scared me, and I'm not going to go UCLA. I'm not going to say Oregon. We talked about Oregon a little bit. Illinois has super high upside, and they've shown that a little bit, but they need to get a big win this weekend against Arkansas. Is it still Purdue, Matt? Where do you land?
I never had a favorite in the beginning. I still don't know who it is. Like, I guess maybe by
Nope, you have to pick one.
default,
Nope, nope. I am not letting
Oregon.
you sit on the fence.
I just said how I didn't like how Oregon looked, and I'm gonna stick with Oregon.
Okay,
Hmm.
that's going to quack with the Ducks. I
Mm.
respect it. As Shellstad starts to make shots, they're going to look really good. Mountain West, like San Diego State was some people's favorite coming in, Boise State, but then they dropped this surprising neutral site game to Boston College and they got blasted at San Francisco. I think Nevada might be the best team, but they
Yes.
weren't perfect through their MTE. But yeah, I'm going to say it's Nevada right now. I think they have ascended to the betting market favorite, and I love that as a guy who bet the Wolfpack at some point in the preseason.
I still think it's San Diego State, guys. They've done nothing wrong, but I think Nevada is right there. I have them like right next to each other in ratings.
Yeah, if San Diego State gets Reese Waters back,
True,
perhaps they
I
will.
forgot
They
he
will
was
be.
out. That's a good point. Yeah,
Yep, yep.
I
A key
almost got
starter.
cute and said Utah State. I almost got. I couldn't do
it'd
it.
be a
I do
fun,
Utah
Oh,
State.
an okay
Fine.
answer, honestly. I mean,
Yeah, they got that neutral court win over Iowa. They've looked really good. And then the A10. Is it Dayton? Is it VCU? Is it other? I am stubbornly sticking VCU. Both teams have looked competent, but like we said, not got across the finish line in their MTEs. Kai, where do you land favorite in the A10 right now?
boy, yeah, it's Dayton VCU 1A 1B.
Oh, Blurs. No Blurs at 1C. God, keep
No.
sleeping on the
No,
They're
I
not
have
even
not.
close.
Have you really been
No.
impressed with Loyola so far this season, Matt?
I haven't been unimpressed, I guess.
No,
They've
I have.
they squeaked
They're
by
not- yeah.
Southern Utah, a struggling Princeton team, and Chicago State.
Chicago State, who is terrible, Matthew.
Yeah, first game of the year. It's fine.
Also,
Game of the season.
Tulsa's really bad. That win means
Tulsa's
nothing
bad.
to me, in my opinion. But
That's fair.
Matt, they're still good. I wouldn't say they're 1C though. I think it's like it's VCU, Dayton, clear top two. I think SLU will be the third best team once Avila or Avila gets fully back in the lineup, but they clearly have not looked good yet either.
Yep.
Yeah. Shouts to Rhode Island and Davidson, who have been quietly.
Rhode Island looks
I
good.
think. I think they're. I'm ready to talk about them in the St. Joe, George Mason, like second tier, whatever.
Yeah, I think it was. I can't remember if it was which A10 account it was. There's so many of them that are militant in the Twitter sphere, but one of them said that Rhode Island blowout of Charleston is arguably the best performance by an A10 team this season. You could make the case that like some of Dayton's losses were better performances, but I mean they blasted Charleston from the opening tip, and it looks like the talent is actually actualizing under Mr. Miller.
St. Joe's beat Texas Tech, but I do appreciate that answer still.
That's fair. It's fair. Okay, that is it for my new favorites discussion. Matt, what's your first thought? Surprise us.
Let's go with this or that, and I'll just run through, Jim, the conferences that you did not hit. Two teams, controversial, maybe a change from preseason priors. How quickly are you willing to overreact or stick to your guns? I think I'm overreacting more than not. Let's go ACC. UNC Pitt.
UNC.
UNC
Okay.
for me too. Yes.
I think so too. I agree. UNC, just real quick. I think we all underestimated how dynamic how fast their guards were. Like they are the fastest trio of guards in the country, and the pressure they put on you in transition is amazing. I know they do dumb stuff. I know their front line's weak, but I wrote that down as like I think I'm gonna say Pitt and be cute. It's like, nah, I'll still take UNC. Those guards are awesome.
Sorry, I was thinking
Yeah.
which guards did I just see that were just like extremely fast. I was trying to defeat your point, but hang on. Go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
Yeah, these guys go in transition. The comeback against Dayton, it really stood out. Kate Tyson's been a zero, which is a problem.
Yeah,
The front court has major concerns. I think Drake Powell might be their fourth best player, but Hubert Davis thinks he's like their ninth best player, which is an issue again. But I think with those three guards, it keeps the floor relatively high. They will figure out the rest. I have okay expectations with that. And as good as the pick guards are, UNC's are better.
They are. I agree. Arizona. Let's go to Big 12 here, Kai. Arizona or Cincinnati?
Boy, that's tough. I mean,
In the same conference, right? Doesn't that make sense? That's great.
yeah, it's Arizona still for me. And that's not including Skilling's injury either, even if he was healthy. Cincinnati's been great, blowing teams out that are way below them, but they've yet to play a top 100 team. Let's see what they do against actual competition. I love this team, but Arizona is still ahead of them for me.
I'll go Cincy, Matt. I'll shift. I'll jump on board. Just the amount of options they have really impresses me. In Arizona, again, I think they are a guard short They really got some issues there. I'll go with the Bearcats.
How about St. John's Xavier? Jim.
Johnny's. I still
Yeah, I think so.
firmly believe in the Johnnies despite the sloppy performance against Georgia. If Jeremy Roach doesn't hit that buzzer beater, I think we feel a lot differently about this team, or the perception is tracking them differently. I still think St. John's is a top 15 team.
All right, before you give your real quick, I just think it's a good premise here because you could argue that I think I'd agree St. John's is the better team. They feel like they look more impressive by maybe a hair, but Xavier has come out on the right end of these tight toss-up late games. The South Carolina win and the Wake win versus St. John's missing the Baylor opportunity and then missing the Georgia opportunity. So tough.
I think St. John's has looked way more impressive eye test wise for me. I think Xavier will be really good at the end of the year. I don't think they're there yet. They're a little slow out of the gates, in my opinion.
How about Alabama, Tennessee? Jim?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a
Thank
really
you.
good one, considering Tennessee has been nearly flawless to this point in the season.
Right. The loss at Purdue, it's like, what do you, or sorry, I mean, that's Alabama. I'm thinking the other team.
Yeah, I think I'll
agree.
go Tennessee. I think Alabama's got that gear offensively, and maybe when Youngblood comes back, I'll have to change my tune because I think his shooting will really mix things in on the wing, amp things up. But Tennessee's shown the defense that I thought they would have with Ziegler, Meshack, and Okpara, and they've gotten a little more offensively from Milicic, Lanier, even Gainey is now an SEC player. He wasn't last year, so I'll go Tennessee by a nose.
I'm going Tennessee too. That team's a buzzsaw. Impressive on both ends so far.
All right, sorry, I'm gonna adjust my mic setting. I think I'm getting a little soft.
A little
You
soft.
hear me coming in strong here. Oh yeah, WCC, the NorCal conundrum. So Santa Clara or Washington State, and I'll throw San Francisco in there as well. Though I think they've actually looked the best of that three, as crazy as that sounds. I think St. Mary's is probably above them. So I limited. I ended up with the Santa Clara versus Washington State. Kai, I know Santa Clara's hit some turbulence. Washington State's looked really good, but are we convinced that Santa Clara is worse than Washington State? I don't think we would have said that preseason. So
No, I would not have. I might have Santa Clara still rated higher. I'm not sure that's right though. Washington State has looked better to me eye test wise so far. I agree San Francisco is better than both.
Yeah, I think Washington State is better when healthy, but Coward is banged up. He missed the last game and is likely to miss at least another week or so. We don't know exactly what the diagnosis is or what the injury is. They need him back in there. He's their pro level wing. But Santa Clara just has had too many bad performances for me to back them and say they're better right now.
All right, last one. Memphis or Arkansas?
Memphis.
It's Memphis.
I guess it is Memphis.
Memphis has been
I guess it is by
insane
a clear margin.
so far.
And
Yeah,
going
I'm glad,
forward, do you think you say the same thing in 2 months? I'm trying to think more
Yes.
futuristically. Yeah,
I don't think Arkansas's roster's that good. Like it is not
there's
this
just no margin for
overflowing.
error. There's no margin for error at all.
They have nine
Not
players. One of them super injury prone. Their freshmen are not even top 15 freshmen. Boogie Fland actually has been that level, but Richmond and Knox are not like needle movers really whatsoever. And Janelle, I love Nelly, but he was on like a 40th best team last year at FAU. I don't know. I'm not overly impressed with Arkansas. And like you said, they could fall off if they have injuries. Memphis, the upside is there, and the guards are at least getting along. And Penny smartly didn't schedule any terrible teams because I think their focus would wane against bad teams. But we've seen the gear, and Memphis again. They're in the Maui final in a loaded field.
Yeah.
I'm going Memphis.
I mean, we're talking 1, 2, 3 seed if they beat Auburn and have a normal American conference, which is wild.
It won't be normal. It won't be normal.
It probably won't be, but still incredible for considering the turbulence they had in October or September with the coaches leaving, right?
Yep. Matt, what's your answer?
Wait, for what? What do you?
Memphis or Arkansas?
Oh,
You have to answer.
Memphis. It's Memphis.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I wrote that down thinking I would deliberate that more. But you're right. I guess it is Memphis. Yeah. I mean, this is part of the whole thing. Cal, he probably was a guy or two short. He probably should get a few extra guys. And now let's Louisville real quick. My final one was gonna be Louisville versus Indiana, which we'll see today. I mean, Indiana's been better for sure. But I kind of thought it 2 weeks ago. I would think they would have been kind of a fun conversation, an interesting conversation. But Louisville's got depth issues too. They redshirted those two guys. They got like 9 players now, and all of a sudden a team that looked really deep doesn't look as deep as you thought.
Yeah, because Corn Johnson and Traore have been
Corn
out.
Johnson,
And
yep.
it's like if your game is get up and down, sprint, shoot a bunch of threes, you need to have depth. And they don't really have it.
Kentucky with more depth, and that's sort of the very clear differentiator with how they're executing.
Yep.
All right, that's all I got.
Okay, I'll take the mic back. We're talking Auburn because they are number one in the country right now. And Kim Pum, do I believe they're the best team right now? It's hard to say no. Certainly have the best resume with neutral wins against Iowa State and North Carolina and a semi away against Houston. Like, that's an insane resume. No one is touching that. They've done it kind of in multiple ways. They came back from down 9 against Houston in the second half. They were down 18 to Iowa State, who, by the way, is awesome. Like, I put a future on them during that game, and even though they lost, I'm still very in on that team. And they thoroughly dominated UNC. Janai Broom, who Jim rated as number 1 player in the country in our top 100 votes. We ended up top 3 on him. He is number 1 in Kim Pom Player of the Year. He should be the front runner for actual Player of the Year right now. Almost 21 points per game, over 12 boards a game, 3 blocks per game, and his efficiency stats are like out of this world. He's been awesome, and basically all of their other guys have been good to better than expectations. Baker Mazzara has leveled up his game. Denver Jones has made the leap from FIU. Chaney Johnson has been super valuable, like a really, really, really valuable piece for them. And then Pettiford, he's been one of the best freshmen in the country, period. And we know Bruce Pearl's a great coach. So Auburn, Jim, would you say they're your best team in the country right now?
Yes, I actually my preseason title pick too. So I'm rolling with that, feeling good about that pick and the Broom number 1. Dylan Cardwell and Broom together has worked fairly well. Broom's mobility and Cardwell, I think, is more mobile than maybe even I gave him credit for in the preseason. They said in the broadcast last night that Pearl thinks he's the best defender in the country. Might be a bit far, but I mean, he's a blanket at the rim and actually has shown more mobility, like I said. So Matt, I believe in the defense. They're getting way more offense from some of their guards than I thought. Pegues hasn't even played well, and they're still scoring in bunches. I love some of the flex action they run. They're huge, they're athletic, they're fast, they can shoot. Like what are they missing? They're number 1 for me right now.
No, they are. I mean, Baker Mazzara and Broom have been even better than I thought they would be. I mean, Miles Kelly has been kind of like the X factor that's been like, oh wow, that guy's a real piece. The thing I like about Auburn, and Pearl talks about this, like they really do. I think he's underrated as like a scout prep coach. Like they really try and do different things against different opponents. I think there's some coaches who we're going to do us, we're going to master what we do, and you have to adjust to us. But I think, I mean, Auburn, for the most part, they're not going to abandon what they do in terms of playing inside out through Broom, but I do think they make very specific game-to-game tweaks. I was caught watching that Auburn insider thing, and I remember I'd read some quotes from Pearl this summer, maybe kind of rethink. Not that we were questioning he's a great coach, but I think we sort of, we just accept he's won a bunch of games, gets a bunch of good players, but like they do very specific things that, they're more organized, and it helps when you have a bunch of adults, right? They are an old team, and that definitely shows up against younger teams, especially in this day and age.
Agreed. That's my thought. Passing along, Jim, I think, is next.
Yeah, my second thought, we got to talk about fouling up 3 because it has become like a very hot button. How on earth do you not foul up 3? This is partially a result of multiple Maui games where Solo Ball hits the 3 to tie the game and send it to OT. Dayton hit a would-be game-tying 3, but Santos's toe was on the line, Kevin Durant style. And everybody's like, how are you not fouling up 3? What are you doing? This discussion is nuanced. It's more nuanced than just like you can always foul up 3. It's not like on MVP baseball, you just hit bunt and you immediately got the guy to second base. It's not an auto successful strategy. You should never foul with like 12 seconds left. I've seen people clamoring for that. That opens you up to losing in regulation because the other team can just hit both free throws, foul you, and if you miss free throws, then you can lose. So it has to be like a late final 5 to 6 seconds thing. The only time I really thought, wow, they should have fouled there was when when UConn went inside the 3-point line with about 6 seconds left, 5 seconds left, before Diarra kicked it out to Ball. You have the situational awareness to hack him then it works. But you can even say, like, later in that game or in overtime, Memphis did foul up three, and UConn hits the first one with 2 seconds left. They get a tip out. They got a shot to win in overtime off the tip out. It's not as foolproof as people like to make it believe. I think, Kai, I'm on the side of yes, if my team was down three, I'd want to get the shot off rather than get fouled. But
Yes.
executing it is so much harder than the lazy Twitter, just foul three. Like, why don't you just do that? It's not that easy. And I think people need to be made aware of that and not just clamor for it all the time.
It's not that easy, but it's far underutilized still. And I think coaches do a poor job of utilizing it because it is much more likely to hit a three-pointer than to get a tip out on a free throw after making the first free throw and getting a shot off. I think the mechanisms of those two aren't even close. I agree on the timing aspect, but I think there's
that's
also
the big part.
Yeah, the timing aspect is the number one issue, right? But I think there's also some Todd Golden math that goes into that, right? The Florida math. It's like, well, if you're the superior free throw team, I would argue you should start fouling up three a lot earlier, and you make it a free throw game if you want to think about it like that. But it's more so the awareness in the court. To your point about players going inside the line, like in pickup games, for instance, when we're up three, I won't even guard my guy inside the 3-point line. I'll let him go right by me. You know, it's like that sort of thing where it's like they don't need it to, or sorry, they don't want it to. Give them a two, or foul them inside the arc. To your point, and that's a lack of court awareness, and we kind of make excuses, Matthew, for these players, but they're D1 athletes and like the cream of the crop of the basketball players in the country, and these coaches are supposed to be the best as well, and they still make kind of poor decisions sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, maybe it's anecdotal. There's so many more, there's a lot more off-ball mental lapses, at least. Maybe I'm just, again, it's early in the season. It's a lot of newer teams, so you're newer to a system, but just basic, like, you can't lose your guy. You can't lose shooters. I don't know who was guarding solo ball on that UConn thing. Not the guy who theoretically should have fouled, but the guy guarding ball let him make like that last second relocation cut and looked at ball and tried. It's like, no, just look at your dude. That guy, that three is going to kill you. The 18-foot, 17-foot drive that, or who gave it to ball? Was it
Diarra?
It was Diarra, right? Yeah. Like you let, yeah, I'm like, let him go. Like you don't need you don't need that. So yes, I agree with you. I wonder if it has to do with the fact that there are a lot more. There's a lot more new on some of these teams, but still, that should be just like a basic basketball individual instinct that shouldn't need to be taught as a part of a broader system. I don't accept that notion.
Yeah, I just the people that are like, why aren't you fouling up three with like Dayton hit the three went through the hoop with 6 seconds left. You can't have possibly been wanting them to foul with 14 seconds left as they brought it up the court. And then once the guy is in range to potentially be in shooting motion, it's a little more dicey then. I just want people to realize it's not as easy as simply hitting the button. Oh, hit the foul up three button. That's all you have to do. It's easy. Okay, that's my thought. Matthew, to you.
I'll skip. Okay, I just want to quickly hit on there's been a few inspired by Discord chatter, the rise of some villains I wanted to call attention. If you guys had any other of your own, and maybe let's start to write some more names down as we watch, guys. But like Dan Hurley is now becoming a villain very clearly, right? Hunter Dickinson has probably been one, but man, really cemented that legacy by kicking what's his name in the face. A couple other guys I saw mention, Mark Sears, who I'm not in the villain camp, but I do agree with the notion that he is really gotten to like the James Harden level of manipulating fouls and
Yes.
selling calls. And he drives hard and he's big, but he does do like the snaps his neck back, and he does get that call way too often. And the other one I wrote down is Elliot Cadeau bothers the crap out of me. Like, obviously, I'm extremely biased, but I mean, I feel like that dude is just like, he drives so hard to the rim, but then every like foul, it's just him like barreling his chest or elbow into the defender, and it's just like you can see all the opposing defender like, this guy's literally, he's fouling me. Like, don't. And I there's more of that out there, and I'm gonna start keeping a list. So I guess it's just a call to action to players out there. Like, I'm watching. I will find you.
Need more Adam
Sears and Cadeau, two fringe stars, whatever you want to call them. That I'm just like, I know what you're doing, guy. I don't like that.
The head snapback thing is, I wish it was punished by like a flopping thing. Like, oh, you did that when there was no actual contact. Like, dead ball technical. One free throw for them. I'm not going to give you a foul, but every time you do it, I'll give the other team a free point or a chance at a free point because it's stupid. It's acting. It's non-basketball. Get it out of the game. It's dumb. I hate it.
It's used a lot. It's ubiquitous. Have you guys seen a flopping call this year, by the way? I have not. I
Not
think
a single one. I've
pretty
seen a lot
much-
of staffs ask for it, and
Yeah.
it's never called.
They pretty much.
We don't need flopping.
I agree. It got overcalled for sure, especially on the 3-pointers when guys.
Apparently Huggins was the one that really made it a huge thing. Like he pushed for that really hard. And I was like, Huggins, relax. Like there's bigger issues. There's bigger fish to fry in our game.
Now that they just don't call charges as often, thank God.
True. Yeah.
People are less incentivized to flop, so I think that's helped.
Good point. I'm going to skip my last thought and save it for next week, fellas. Should we go quickly to some weekend previews?
Yes.
Might as well.
All right. Well, first, let's talk just briefly, if we can, about the game today. The Maui Championship, I know, will be irrelevant for most people listening to this podcast afterwards, but good to get our thoughts a little bit. Matt, who wins? Auburn, Memphis? Your thoughts?
I think Auburn, although our boy Dane Danger Zone has looked phenomenal, and I think he can put up an admirable fight against Jonai Broom. But again, I think Broom has been, I knew he was really good, but to see him in person this year, he does look, he has a new level to his game, right? I think his shot is much more dynamic. His passing is even better. And I just forget how big he is and how good he is at carving out space to get angles. Like they ISO'd him on the first play of the game against UNC, and he caught it at like 20 feet away. He just very quickly backed his way into like 6 feet, one quick turn, right hand, bank, no problem. Like it was just like a walk in the park. He has really lifted them to a new level, which I think is sort of goes without saying. I think Auburn wins convincingly, as good as Memphis has looked. I think this is where they crack.
Convincingly as well. I think Auburn takes care of business. I think Pearl can just throw Cardwell at Danger and let Broom be the roamer and kind of come off a Cisse and be the guy that is the weak side shot blocker. And that really helps to be able to go that two big lineup against what Memphis has kind of frequently been throwing out, the double center rotation or even with Jourdain out there. The big thing against Memphis, can you contain the ball handling of their guards, the drives? Can you avoid fouling them? And I think generally Auburn can do that. We also have to talk about Tyrese Hunter's insane, unsustainable three-point shooting.
He's been amazing.
I don't think anybody has loved the Maui rims more than Hunter. Like the amount of front rim, backboard, falls in triples that he's had is ridiculous. He's clearly comfortable there. But Haggerty, Hunter, big time kind of just get into the lane. Haggerty especially throw his body at you. Just don't fall for some of his tricks. And I think Auburn can win going away.
Yeah, I mean, Jim, even Haggerty, he shot like 29% from three last year on a pretty high volume, and he's at over 42%. So, well,
He's shooting some like step backs too.
Tough shots. We'll see how they do on normal rims in normal gyms here in like a week or so.
I take Auburn as well, but yeah, Tyrese Hunter, 12 for 20 from three the last two games at the Maui. Pretty good. And then Haggerty, the hype was justified. He's now top 10 Kim Pum Player of the Year. He's looked incredible. To Thursday, real quick, Arkansas, Illinois, the second big test for both teams. Both, quote-unquote, failed their first test against actual opponents. This is going to be an interesting one in Kansas City, T-Mobile Center. High intrigue, I would say. Illinois is rated higher in Kim Pum. I would say these teams are closer to even, with even Arkansas maybe being a little bit better, but is that misguided, Jim? Who would you rather, I guess who would you rate higher, and who would you pick to win this game?
Yeah, I guess I still have Arkansas rated a tad higher, but I do think the injury to Brazil, I know he came back, but he's not quite himself, and so they're playing 8 deep, and again, I don't think Knox is good. Nelly Davis has not looked fully himself even still, kind of a lower usage scorer to this point. It's been a lot of Tiero, a lot of Boogie. And I think Big Z against his twin bro Kai, the fun little showdown in the paint there, the Ivasic's. I think Illinois is going to win. I don't really trust Arkansas quite yet. And Illinois has at least shown some more upside than or they've shown the upside that potentially they have. And I thought they were actually pretty solid against Alabama. They just caught a little bit hotter shooting Alabama team. And there's a coaching edge here. I have to point that out. Brad Underwood, greater than sign Calipari and Kenny Payne.
Matt, Illinois or Arkansas?
I agree Illinois wins, and I can't believe I'm saying that. I'm taking the younger team against the older team, but the older team doesn't look super buttoned up right now. So, yeah, go Illini. Things I never thought I'd say this year.
All right, we'll finish off with Pitt at Iowa State, two teams that have been much better than expected.
Ohio State, right?
Ohio State. What did I say?
Iowa State, I think.
Ohio State. Pitt at Ohio State, rated 15 and 16 in KenPom, right next to each other. I've been impressed with both teams. I think Ohio State is still better. I think Pitt, I don't want to say this too much, Matthew, but they're not top 15 still. Okay, I've watched these games. I think they're awesome. They're not top 15, in my opinion. I still think there's some cracks.
I think they're close. I'm actually not buying. I'm not totally selling that. I think I'm selling Ohio State more than I'm selling Pitt, as crazy as that is.
Okay.
Now, I think because Ohio State interior D kind of bothers me. But even Ohio State's defense overall has been way better than I thought it would be.
Really
This is actually a great matchup. It's two teams that I'm buying more than I thought I would. And I don't think their extremely gaudy analytic ranking right now is all that fraudulent. Maybe off a few pegs, but I think top 20 is pretty. I could get there with both these teams. Again, maybe too late or too rich, Jim. But I think Pitt wins this game. I do off the loss to Wisconsin. I'm going with the Panthers on the road.
Wow.
I am certain that Ohio State is not top 20, Matt. I am certain that they're not. They're making 44% of their threes right now. John Mobley's making 59% from three. Michi Johnson, 42%. These are outlier numbers for their career. Bruce Thornton's over 50. I just don't expect that to sustain. Aaron Bradshaw's out of the picture because he may or may not be getting investigated at this point. He's off the team. That hurts the interior defense a fair amount. And their interior defense, I think, has been amped up a little bit by some of the schedule they played. Evansville, I think, made like 2 2s against them. But Pitt, of course, also a little shorthanded too with Dunn out. We mentioned that earlier in the podcast. Both these backcourts are great. I respect both of them quite a bit. I'm going to go with Pitt, despite it being their first road game. That does spook me. I think they win too.
All right, guys, I'll go Ohio State. Bruce Thornton, worth noting what he's doing. 7.5 assist to turnover ratio. That's correct. He has a sub 8% turnover rate. He's getting into Monty Morris category territory with the assist to turnover ratios, and also hitting shots. He's a top 10 O rating player in the country. It's incredible. He's been unbelievable.
Yeah, I believe Ryan Nemhard's like 8-1. Chelstad is like 8.2-1 assist to turnover, and Thornton is right there. Those guys are all posting great numbers.
Video game stats. Okay, fellows, that does it. We have one review to read. It's defending Matthew. How nice. Have you read this yet, Matt? Yes.
No, I haven't.
It's a 4-star review, so of course
Has Matt looked at the outline?
Well, this review is related to that. 4 stars, so we don't appreciate that, Kevin J9. He says they listen to every show and we're the best college basketball podcast available. Again, 4 stars, confusing rating there. Still mystifies me. You guys aren't regulars on Field of 68 with the Daily Best Bet show. Well, they couldn't pay us, so that's the answer there, Kevin J9. My only negative thought is I feel like the condescending takes towards Matt are getting a little old this year. Wow, he doesn't like our condescending takes towards Matthew.
Yeah, guys, what the hell?
I really feel like Jim and Kai talked down to him. Take it easy on Matthew. It's not that big of a deal that he missed the change to the outline. Go Boise State, I assume. BSU, could be Ball State. And keep it up, guys. Okay, again, 4 stars for a pretty positive review. But Matthew, what do you think?
Well, what do you guys have to say for yourself? You basically cost us a perfect 5-star rating. So there's blood on both of your hands. There's just simply martyrism on mine. So
yes,
I'll defer to you. Guys, hey, I appreciate the I like that I have a fan section developing this little kind of tribe in the corner. That's fine. I don't need your I love Kai. I could give 2 shits what Kai and Jim think. I promise you that. I don't.
Well, that's made very clear. You're so soft. I worry this is going to be. They're not going to be able to hear you.
Volume is.
It's like it's baby.
Why
you're turning away from your microphone.
I don't understand. I'm right here.
That's okay.
We don't. Soft now.
Yes.
Yes, you're still very soft.
I don't know why. Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
It must be
my peek behind the curtain on this is that Kai and Jim do 90%, 98% of the outline work. So we are annoyed when Matt doesn't even look at it. That's my justification.
Yes.
That's fair.
So go ahead and put another star up there. Again, this is episode 379.
Revise and please give us 5.
This is not our first episode, 379. Okay. Thank you out there for joining us. We are back. Fellas, are we doing a Best Bet show? Ooh, that's going to be difficult.
Saturday?
Actually, I do have pickup at Marquette High School. Shout out Marquette High School. We'll discuss.
Well, we'll decide offline. Yes.
Potentially
I probably
skipping this
can.
week, or potentially not. Next week podcast for sure. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel, please. Join our Discord. The link is in the description to the podcast and the YouTube channel.
I'm gonna do a solo show, Kai.
Okay.
I'll do a solo this Saturday.
Okay. You make the outline too. It'll be great.
No outline, baby. We're just gonna all freewheel.
Enjoy Maui. Enjoy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving too from the Weave.